Hello there everyone. So I want to continue with the progress that we've been making recently in developing our simulation model. I should think that by now most people have a decent enough idea of what we're talking about when we say simulation, and I'm very glad to hear that some of you have been taking this into your own life and are using it to affect a more conscientious relationship to your inner life. The simulation model is ultimately designed to help us understand some important things that will be useful to us in this video. 1. That mental activity has an imagistic component. 2. The images that we receive in the mind usually pertain to psychological imprints that have derived from our lived experience. And 3. By studying simulations, we are granted access to our personal unconscious material that would otherwise lie hidden beneath the veil of everyday images and thoughts. After working with this system for only a short while, we move out of our mundane relationship to the mind and start to see it as a dynamic ecosystem. Images, thoughts, memories, emotions, and all manner of vagaries and abstractions appear very much like the organs within our body. They function both independently and synergistically to inform the greater system that contains them. And perhaps more significantly, we also tell that nothing in the psyche is innocent. There is always some hidden coil, some strand of thread in the labyrinth that leads to somewhere else. We derive from simulations a sobering perspective that declares that we are never truly alone in here. There are other agents that spring into action from unknown spaces, almost as if they had a life and will all of their own, and if charged with enough potency, can steal command of ego consciousness, directing our thoughts, actions, emotional states, and influencing our perspectives over everything and anyone. And this leads nicely into what we're going to look at today. In the last video, I spoke about the prime memories of our life that derive from imprints in our nervous system. These imprints continue to influence our life in the present and embody the submerged cause from where all manner of daily moods and fantasies emanate. And today's subject is related to that by further extension. It, like the prime memories, is a major artifact of our psychological ecosystem. But instead of merely residing within the personal unconscious, it gets projected out onto the external environment and informs the impression of our life that we could call the world image. The world image is a representation of the environment that intermediates our relationship to it. So depending on the nature of the world image, our perception and style of relationship to life changes. If this seems too vague, then let's demonstrate how it works by example. Let's say that there was a girl who was raped when she was younger. The stress of this event will inevitably create traumatic imprints for this individual, resulting in psychological and even physiological symptoms such as PTSD, anxiety, self-harm, and a difficulty in forming lasting and meaningful connections, to name but a few common outcomes. This life event becomes imprinted as part of the girl's nervous memory, which subsequently becomes translated at the level of the conscious mind as representation and information. The information is not disembodied quanta, rather it is embodied and psychologically charged with meaning for the individual involved. One of the ways that we reconcile ourselves to significant life information is through sequencing it together into a personal narrative. Very important for us to focus on here is that this narrative sequence generates an overall impression not only of the information, but how we come to see ourselves in relationship to it. We don't merely process information like some lifeless machine, we embody it because it has come to embody us. Returning back to our hypothetical example, as a way of reconciling herself to her trauma, the girl comes to narrate herself into the role of a victim. This narrative not only works to make sense of the information that is being converted by her body memory, It also provides her with a new impression as the image of her life. By exercising this process, her mind creates a certain degree of closure around that event, sealing it into a sequence of imagistic narrative that comes to characterize the nature of her past. However, in the process, she seals herself inside the sequence because it is arising not in some dissociated space, but from within her own body and mind. The psychological charge of this life event is therefore intimate and possessive, and each time she ruminates upon her situation, she further entrenches herself into that image. But what then of the world? For surely the world, the stage of our action and felt experience, has to be incorporated into this as well, right? We come to embody the world as a direct consequence of our sensory immersion in it. And we also come, very much through the same process as I've just previously described, to see the world as a body, as a character that, very much like another person, naturally comes to characterize the way that we relate to it. Our young girl relates to the world proportional to the way that she has related to her identified psychological material. Her world image is taken directly from this identified material and projected onto the external environment. She interprets the world in the image of a ghastly predator that is waiting to consume her at every angle. She responds defensively and is always hyper-vigilant, untrusting of others, and perceives every potential new encounter with warmth and connection as a new opportunity to experience pain. The world image as predatory animal is a common representation for many victims of abuse, and it shows up frequently in the language and sometimes in the art of people who have experienced significant traumatic events. So we can see here how the violation that our young girl experienced in her youth becomes an interpretive lens through which she analyzes everything significant, from the people in her life to the important decisions that she will make. So the world image is essentially that, the representation of our internal self-identification projected onto the environment. The example that I've given today was necessarily dramatic to highlight the process of representation and identification. However, a world image does not necessitate negative information in order to be created. If the memories that an individual mind selects to identify with are positively affirming in nature, then a complementary world image will arise out of that process. Most people oscillate between different memory cores that have come to characterize their most significant life experiences, and the confluence between them influences our relationship with reality. If we learn from our past and see how it has come to shape our perceptions, then we will discover the image that has come to characterize the way that we relate to life. In the next video, I'm going to be talking about the various ways that ideology can exploit the psyche's function to create world images, and talk about the respective benefits and shortcomings that come along with that. But for now, I'm simply going to say thank you very much for watching, and as usual, I'll see you again.